This is the manufacturing facility in Pretoria of Riverside Foods on the left and Tea Time Cakes on the right. The group of companies does have further manufacturing and distribution facilities in Pretoria, as well as Durban, Port Elizabeth and Cape Town. The purpose of this video is to provide a visual fly-through of the buildings making up the offices and primary factory of Riverside Foods and Tea Time Cakes. We've entered the welcoming area of the facility here. This welcoming area comprises of the reception, entrance to the admin offices up the stairs, as well as the boardroom through the grey door. We built our boardroom 3 years ago and are proud to announce that we've hosted a number of annual buyer meetings for major retailers such as Spar and Shoprite. For two reasons, we opted to build the admin offices on a mezzanine level. One, space has inherently been a constraint for the businesses as they've grown over the past 2 decades. And two, having the offices elevated to glance down on key production areas has always been a sought-after goal for us, as it assists in close supervision of these productions. Here, we're now exiting the admin offices and making our way to the beginning of the flow of materials for the first factory, the Riverside Foods factory. We're now entering the raw materials storeroom. The raw materials storeroom typically holds approximately 100 tons of stock at any given moment in time. This ranges from commodities such as wheat flour, sugar and baking margarines to more niche items such as spices, essences and baking agents. To put things into perspective, within a typical month, we receive, store, pick and issue in excess of 300 tons of raw materials, excluding packaging, through the storeroom. Following the raw materials storeroom, the flow of materials enters our mixing and baking facility. Over here, we mix our batters, deposit batter into baking trays, bake the sponges and cupcakes, and remove the baked products from the baking trays. Once this is done, we cool the products and store them in the holding fridge before moving along to be completed into finished cakes. In this area, we have installed our first impressive travelling oven that's over 25 meters long and can bake as many as 4,000 sponge cakes per hour. Although we've recently purchased and installed our travelling oven, we never removed the original baking capacity we have been using over the years. With the travelling oven, we simply tripled it. In this area, you can see the original rotary ovens we've been using. These will remain as is. Our investment into our baking capacity has opened many business opportunities that we plan to exploit throughout the coming months. It's worth noting that in order to fit the travelling oven into the facility, we recently entirely removed the north wing of the building to accommodate this massive piece of machinery. Coming out of the baking section of the Riverside Foods factory, we enter into an intermediary passage whereby you can see on your left-hand side 4 container chillers. Each one of these chillers can hold up to 18 pallets of stock, giving us refrigeration capacity in this section of the factory of up to 72 pallets. On the right-hand side, we have our very own cream manufacturing plant. This is a very integral part of the manufacturing facility. We've been making our own cream for our cakes for over 10 years now. The extensive experience we have in this field has largely contributed to our sustainable competitive advantage in the market. It's worth noting that selling cream into the market still remains a massive opportunity for us to exploit in the coming months and years. Moving up the ramp, we enter the final manufacturing area of Riverside Foods. On the right-hand side of this area, you'll notice the 3 production belts. These belts are used to assemble the final cakes together. Each belt needs approximately 15 people to run, and each belt can manufacture in excess of 1,000 cakes per hour. This equates to a comfortable daily capacity of more than 20,000 cakes. Once the cakes have been manufactured and quality approved, they are palletized and moved into this intermediary handover area where they are counted and captured on our stock control system. This process is recorded on CCTV surveillance cameras. Once captured, stocks move along into the finished goods storeroom. We've now entered the final resting place of the products in this manufacturing facility. In this final goods storeroom and dispatch, we have capacity to hold up to 324 pallets of stock. This is equal to just under 60,000 cakes. In this area, we receive, rotate, label, pick, and load stock onto the delivery vehicles. This is also where all the logistics planning is done. Routes are worked out, and staff of this department work very closely with admin staff who in turn issue invoices, etc., according to the needs of the logistics team. We've now exited the facility of Riverside Foods and are now entering the facility of Tea Time Cakes. The facility of Tea Time Cakes is much newer than that of Riverside Foods. The bulk of the building was erected in 2018, although some sections were completed in mid-2020. This first section that we're going through now is the raw materials storeroom and is the most recent expansion of the building. Similar to Riverside Foods, here too we handle around 250 tons of materials per month. Raw materials are picked and handed over to the bakery staff who operate in this area. Here we scale out our recipes and mix our batters. We use only 2 mixers, as can be seen. Our large mixer has capacity to mix 3,000 cakes per hour and the smaller mixer 1,000 cakes per hour. At Tea Time Cakes we are hence also able to manufacture between 15,000 and 20,000 cakes per day with current capacity. In this section we see the original ovens as well as the spot depositors that deposit the batter and the automatic crate and pot drying belts. Over the past 24 months we've invested in automating this section of the factory to a large extent. We are currently busy installing a second large travelling oven, as was seen in the Riverside Foods factory. This oven, together with some tail-end pieces of machinery, will complete the process of automation. This is a strategic plan to significantly improve productivity, profits, and most importantly, enable a better and more consistent product to be manufactured. Once the cakes have been baked, the trolleys are moved to this area for the cakes to be cooled and removed from the baking tins. The cakes are then placed in crates to rest and move along to the decorating department. The used baking tins are loaded into crates and moved to the next section to be washed and dried. In this section, we see the automatic 7-meter washing machine. Pots and crates get washed with pressure nozzles and boiling water. Once washed, the crates and pots get automatically dried, filled, and start the process over again. Once depanned, the cakes move along to the semi-finished cake holding area. Over here, the cakes spend some hours tightly wrapped up to rest and absorb moisture prior to being decorated. This is the cake decorating department. You can see we're currently operating 2 production lines that each carry a capacity of 1,000 cakes per hour. There's ample room to add a 3rd and even 4th line if needed. Once iced and decorated, the cakes are palletized and moved into this handover area where they are counted and captured. Once again, this process is recorded on CCTV cameras and also on video with audio. In the finished goods storeroom and dispatch area of Tea Time Cakes, we're able to store 108 pallets of stock in the container chillers and another 80 pallets of stock on the floor. In this area, we receive, rotate, label, pick, and load stock onto the delivery vehicles. This area is the packaging storeroom of Tea Time Cakes. For both Riverside Foods and Tea Time Cakes, we keep packaging separate to raw materials. This is for food safety standards as well as to reduce the risk of fire. Our packaging storerooms have additional extinguishing capacity in the event of a fire, as the materials are more flammable. We've now entered the 3rd and final factory on site. This is the factory of Solis Pastries, where we manufacture the meat pies. As we enter, you can see our puff pastry line in the front, and on the right-hand side in the background, you'll see our kitchen, where we cook the meat pie fillings. In the distance are the pie assembly lines and the intermediate chiller, where pies are kept prior to baking. Our baking section is on the right-hand side behind the chiller. Once baked, the pies are cooled, packed, and immediately stored in the container chiller at below 5 degrees Celsius. The finished product is palletized for counting and capturing prior to being handed over to the finished goods storeroom and dispatch. As per standard procedure, this is recorded on CCTV camera surveillance. Riverside Foods and Solis Pastries share a finished goods storeroom and dispatch. As was seen, Tea Time Cakes has its own facility. We hope you enjoyed our fly-through and that you got a thorough understanding of how our process flows.